In this video, I have come down to Matchroom Sport HQ to speak to the lady in charge of the World Nineball Tour. It's the Queen of Nineball. Emily, welcome back to the channel. First of all, many years ago when we first met, who'd have thought we'd be sat in Eddie Hearn's office?
Yeah, used to be Barry's office.
Wow, amazing.
And now it is slightly renovated, Eddie's office. So it's always quite vacant because he's travelling around so much. But yeah, it's a great setup here, and it's just to think that after all these years, how much Matchroom's sort of progressing and how things are changing. You know, the office is, you know, there's an extended part of the office now for Matchroom Boxing.
Yep.
The office is just growing and growing, even within multi-sport, but it's really exciting.
How much do you love coming to work here in these grounds? You know, obviously I've been looking out the window. It's an unbelievable building and place, isn't it? It must be awesome to come here every day to work.
I think we kind of take it for granted a little bit, because I remember my first trip here, and it was obviously years ago. God, I was about to actually count it out. It was probably like, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. My dad was coming to commentate on a recorded poker match. Obviously everything wasn't like live back then. You know, like when we used to do the World Pool Masters, that used to be delayed. Like that was never live footage. And the poker was all recorded. So someone had to sit in an edit suite, you know, cut to the camera of going underneath the glass so you could see the cards, cut to the camera and the heart monitor. And my dad came to commentate with Jessie May, and he brought me here. And I remember it was like 9 o'clock at night, so you had to do it through the night. And I just sat in the kitchen, and they were up in the voiceover booth, which I think 6 years ago was my office for like a year in multi-sport. And so when I sat in there, I was like, oh yeah, so they commentate on the poker matches. But now when people come to this office, they're like, wow, it's incredible. Whereas, you know, we just come in every day, probably do take it for granted a little bit. You know, we've got these brilliant grounds, and you get to like 4 o'clock in the office and you can see all of London.
Amazing. And
it's fantastic to see. But I mean, normally every day I'm so excited to get up and come into work, but at the moment it's even more so. I feel like you're like springing out of bed to just get in the car, come here, and just to get cracking, really. You kind of just spend all your time here. A little bit sad, but that's what we do. Right,
let's get into it. I want to talk about the last time you was on the channel was actually the 2022 US Open. It's been that long. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz won. I'm going to ask you a trivia question. Who did he beat in the final and what score?
2022 US Open,
yep.
Fran won. He played Max Lettner.
Correct, half a point.
Half a point. Fuck, and the score. I don't think it went hill-hill.
I fancied you getting Max as the correct answer, but the score's always a bit tricky.
Score's always tricky because it's like, you got to race out and you'll think, and whenever it's like right towards the end, you're thinking about, oh, there's a trophy there, is the confetti cannon there, the sparkler's going to go off, is this going to go off? So you're not really paying attention to the score.
So it was 13.
That was my long-winded way of saying I don't
13
really know.
What? Give us a number. 13.
11?
10.
No!
I
knew it wasn't hill-hill.
No, it wasn't hill-hill, yeah. Yeah, so obviously we've been US Open 2019. Do you feel like that was your big move into the world of nineball? Because obviously you had the Mosconi Cup, World Cup of Pool, World Pool Masters, and then when you got the rights off the Berman family, we went to Vegas, which Joshua Filler won.
That feels like donkeys years ago.
I know, right?
Like forever ago. But wow, that was such a major, that was like a feather in our cap, the US Open. I think that was our transition from, you know, an invitational promoter, the one table setup, the Mosconi, the World Cup, the Masters. It was like those 3 events. I mean, they were the best events on the calendar. We were still the best promoter in pool, but we were only running 3 events. It's mad to think that we were actually only running 3 events. What the hell was we doing with all of our time? My God. I think there was like a season that we had off, like a good 3 months. It'd be like, oh yeah, the next event's Fishermania. But to get that US Open and to obviously continue the Berman legacy as well is that's such an honour, because the event has been running for so long, and for Brady and Shannon to come to us and say, and even every year when they're there, they are overwhelmed with joy, happiness. Even when you see them present the trophies and they're there in the crowd, they are like just over the moon at what we've done with the production. and to honour obviously their father like that, who's been running that event for years and years, and everyone talks about the prestige of the US Open. I mean, it's on Barry's bucket list, the US Open, not the Mosconi, like the US Open, because it's got that prestige. So to think that we're now here at this moment in time, and we first did that US Open with 30 tables, I'm not going to lie, I had absolutely no fucking clue what I was doing.
I was just going to ask you, did you feel personally under pressure to deliver? Because it's Pool's, it's Nineball's most historic event.
It wasn't, without sounding ignorant, that wasn't what I thought at the time, because it was so new pool to me. I know I'd been in pool for a little while, but I was still trying to understand the global pool world, how players get into the events, how do they qualify, why don't they qualify, why is it that they just get into an event because they're friends with someone. And I was trying to learn so much about, it wasn't a tour, about the industry. So when we took on the US Open, I didn't even understand the years of prestige and history for the US Open. Just saw it as a tournament, and it had more than one table, and it scared the absolute life out of me. It was so much pressure to deliver something completely brand new with a very small team, totally out of our comfort zone. I mean, we'd never done anything like that arena. We'd never done more than one table. We didn't even know how to officiate more than one table. At one point, I was about to go and do a shot clock.
I was going to say, I remember that one because that was the 2019 US Open, the one that Joshua Fuller won, was my first proper gig with Matchroom.
How was it?
Yeah, it was torture. We was there from 9 till midnight at night. I remember we was doing Facebook Live. You had shot clock person on every table. It was a brutal event.
It was horrendous. And I say it's the tournament that made or break people.
Yep.
There's a few people that don't work with us anymore following that event. There's a few people that I think it broke, and then there's a few people that it made, like yourself, for instance. I just remember that platform, in the middle of that multi-table room, and we were up on there, and there was the big projector, and we had the 2 live streaming tables. Obviously, none of the equipment arrived. We were using, I don't want to say it now, so I want to get killed for it. We were using the Cyclops balls, weren't we? Because that's what Diamond had on the container. Oh, okay. Because the container got lost.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like, you lose a package or your cues are left in the post and you go, right, okay, they're in Louisiana, so we know that they're there. We had no idea where this container was, and so it was our first event where we were really shipping everything over. We were relying on so much to come in, and I had no balls. It was carnage. There was this point where I was crying. I didn't even know what to do, and it was so intense. And everyone had such high expectations, but I look back at it now, and what we delivered was even, top of the range. I could have knocked that back a few, and it still would have been good enough. And I think that's something that we put so much pressure on ourselves, and certainly myself, that we always have to be the best. And probably we don't actually need to do as much as what we do, because it still is going to be the best. But I think that's what makes us, obviously, who we are and what we do, and why our tournaments are the way they are, because we strive for it to be exceptional. So that US Open, it's always carved into my brain as torture.
Well, we've been Atlantic City for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I felt like last year it really started to feel like this was the venue. This is home of the US Open. We're about to go back to America for the PLP.
Yes.
In a few weeks' time. How vital is the American pool market for Nineball Pool? Because once the PLP goes there, other than the Mosconi Cup, going back every other year, we've still only got the 3 events. Is that something you chat about in the office with the team?
I've said it multiple times. I would pick up my stuff and go and move to America.
Where would you go?
I would get up, go and move to America. Because
where though? New York, Florida?
I think I love the idea of New York.
Yeah, class.
I think that is a major market for us, and there is such a huge audience in America. I mean, that Nineball song, I'm not even gonna lie, I've listened to it over 200 times. I love that song, it's one of my favourites on Spotify. You go into a bar as a pool hall, it's like the equivalent is here in the UK. You go into a pub, there's a darts board. In America, there's a pool table everywhere. I know there's is it Nineball, is it whatever, but there's pool. And for us, Finding a home for the US Open is vital, and we have done that. Yeah, we tried, Vegas in the first year because of our contacts there, but we found really good partners in Caesars with Harrah's Resort in Atlantic City, and it makes sense. Let's keep the US Open there. So each year, all we do is we build upon that. We increase the arena, we increase maybe the idea of the amateur tournament alongside, and it works there. Why change it? Let's just make sure that we're bigger and better each year. Tickets are going on sale for the beginning of March for the US Open, and we've already increased the arena size for the final. I think we were about just under 600 last year. We're going to be just under 800 for that, and I anticipate that we'll sell the final out. We're also introducing hospitality. So we know that America is a huge market for us, and that's why we pushed the button with Premier League Pool. Why not move it to a pool hall? We were so fixed on Premier League is a different beast.
Yeah.
It's not your World Masters, it's not your Mosconi Cup. It is purely, a league designed for online betting, a league designed for just non-stop matches like that. But, okay, it works in snooker that it's behind closed doors. Pool, 9-ball, let's shove it in a pool hall.
Great move, I think.
Yeah,
Great move.
It's just a bit of atmosphere. Everyone, we don't ignore the feedback that comes through. Everyone complained about, I think it was the tension of Jason losing, to be totally honest, but there was the complaints of the no atmosphere for the semis and the final from last year. And listen, we were there ourselves. You conducted the interview and I was handing the trophy
Didn't know what to do.
Oh my God, you just stand there and you go like this and you just want to shrink into your shoulders. It was horrible, but there's not going to be thousands there for Premier League Pool, but there's going to be an atmosphere. It's going to be great for the players that they can perform in front of others. And even more so, there's a tournament for fans in America to know that they can go travel to Connecticut and come and watch the Premier League. It's 8 days. And it's like, 9 hours a day? 2 tables watching the best players in the world.
Well, let's stay on the PLP. 16 players. I've seen a lot of comments online. There's a few things going on where invites and all this, what you say on social media. How did you come up with the 16 players that are playing in the Premier League?
Look, there is a lot of stuff happening at the moment with invites, and I can confidently say that we've got it right now when it comes to qualification and order of merit for the events. We introduced the World Nineball Tour rankings in 2022, and that was purely to establish an order of merit basis, transparency, fairness for the players. Premier League Pool is a completely different event. 16 players, again, they're raced to 5 games. There's all these countries across the world who are taking the Premier League Pool, and again, we like to go by order of merit. So we invited straight away the top 8 players from the World Nineball Tour rankings. So the top 8 are in. Order of merit, you're in. Already you've got both Mario He and Albin Ocean, both Austrian. That's already, you've taken one country out. So, it's a little bit difficult when you go on order of merit because it takes the commercial side of it away from us. We're a promoter as well.
Yep.
And then you leave 8 players. We signed 128 players to the World Nineball Tour. And there's 120 players that I have to now choose 8 players from. And I just said then, it's not an I. We sit down, we talk it through. First of all, the first thing you do, pull up the rankings. Pull up the rankings. Let's try and do this from order of merit. But also you've got the World Pool Masters coming up. They're the top 14 off of the rankings and 2 wildcards. A little bit different, but it's a different event. We talk about it, you look at the broadcasters who are taking the event, you look at characters. It's completely different. And then also you look at location. We're hosting it in America. You've got to have more than one American player. Skylar Woodward is a fan's favourite. He didn't get on for the top 8, so he comes off of a wild card. Look, it's a challenge, and there are so many players that we missed off. David Alcady, he's the European Open champion. Kachi, he's the UK Open champion. Both didn't get in. There was online talk from Sanjin, and I think someone from his local country piped up and said, well, how comes he didn't get in? He was second last year, but then obviously corrected his semi-finalist. But then you got the same, Noah Kioi, also made the semis, but he's not back this year.
Tough to pick.
It's tough.
When you look
it's
at it
tough
like
to
that.
pick. So I'm not saying that it's the best, way, but I'm confident that from top 8 off of the rankings, you're going off order of merit, but then there's so many other things to consider. And for a 16-man invitational field, you can't compare that to other events when you've got loads of places to choose from. And again, we're live on television. You've got broadcasters to think about, not just YouTube.
PDC work out of this very building as well, alongside you and your team. Their Premier League darts is very different to ours. Do you think moving forward at some point you're going to change the way Premier League pool is?
Yeah, I mean, the Premier League darts, I don't know if you know this, you can't get a ticket. Can't get a ticket anywhere. It is literally crazy. You're selling out so many arenas of 10,000 seats. I mean, the O2 is always in that May, the final. It's mad how many tickets they're selling for the Premier League darts, and they go all around every Thursday, and it's in the calendar. Everyone knows. So our Premier League pool is very different. Whether that turns into Championship League pool, goes back to that route, and there is a one night a week for pool. I don't know. That's the beauty of the World Nineball Tour. You know, each year we always add a new event. I've always said that each year we add a new event. Correct me if I haven't delivered on that. This year there'll be another new event. So what's not to say that there's a smaller tour of...
What's the new event? Can we have any breaking news?
That's the Reyes Cup.
Well, I thought you meant... We'll get to the Reyes Cup in a minute, actually. The World Championships, we've had the COVID edition where, you know, the crowds were allowed back in due to COVID. Then we've been to Poland, freezing in the snow. The biggest news for the World Nineball Tour, 10-year deal with Saudi Arabia. What was that like? How difficult is it for us mere mortals to get a deal like that done?
So many moving parts, and obviously, you know, we're delighted to have that news out there. And I think the day that we announced it felt a little bit surreal because, you know, this has been ongoing for so long, and it's so hard to keep that to yourself. You know, when you're ready with the press release, and it's so hard not to want to tell the world 2 weeks beforehand, or even, you know, when you see all the players at the Mosconi Cup, but it takes so many different people, you know, coming together to do this, and it's brilliant to be working obviously with the Ministry of Sport and the Saudi Billiard Snooker Federation as well. And on that, it's coupled with a ranking event on the snooker. You know, we don't work in the same offices as World Snooker, but again, we are, you know, sister companies. And we've got that kind of little healthy competition between Q Sports, which I think is brilliant. I like to think that, you know, Nineball is the bigger of the two. I'm not silly. I understand snooker is a total different beast when it comes to Q Sports, but it's not to say that Nineball can't get there like the darts. But it's brilliant for the World Championship. $1 million prize fund.
Talking about prize fund, have you decided on what the winner's getting yet? Because that's not been announced. I'm sure you're not going to tell me, but
no, I'm not going to tell you. We're looking into it. No, we've come up with some options. It's in June. It's got plenty of time to look at that. I know you're eager.
200 North.
I'm not giving you anything.
Oh, God.
My dad blessed me with the bluffing skills for poker. I'm not giving you any insight. Look, it's just be patient. All right, it's $1 million. It's $1 million prize fund, which is really great. There's also the one thing that people did not notice. There's an extra day as well. So the World Pool Championship used to be the 5 days.
Yep.
Now it's 6. So we've got an extra day of matches for everyone to enjoy. Obviously, we were looking, I think it was roughly like 20 tables. Loads of matches happening. So we've just added an extra day of production for you guys. Look at how many more hours of pool you're going to get and more matches.
Well, I'm sure you're going to deliver. So I want to move on to the WPA. As we sit here right now, where are we at with the WPA stuff?
Oh, throwing it right in there, aren't you? Look, like I've said in the last couple of interviews that we've done, we're in discussions with the WPA, and it's, you know, I'm really pleased to say that they're positive discussions, and, you know, it's great to see that where we were 6 months ago, for instance, to be sat here and say, yeah, you know, we're in positive talks. What a brilliant step forward that is. So, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen from it. You know, these bans that came into place aren't from us. That, you know, those bans didn't come in from Matchroom.
Was you shocked that they said that at the time, that they were going to ban players?
Yeah, I was, to be honest. I thought, I was shocked, but I also thought it was a bit of a bluff, because of just, you know, how it was and things like that. So, and also, bans never work out for anyone. So it's shocking to implement them. They're never going to end well. So why introduce a ban?
Did it wind you up? I know you're very in and out with social media. Did it wind you up when people were saying, you know, just bury the hatchet, you know, get on the phone, sort it out?
I try not to get wound up, and also I think what's really important is that obviously there's a lot that happens behind the scenes in anything. We obviously know what is going on, and look, at the end of the day, it's everyone can say everything online, but I know we've signed 128 players. Signed 128 pros to the World Nineball Tour. That's the top pros, by the way, in the world, not just random pool players. There's the top pros in the world. Signed 128 of them like that. They obviously had the faith in us at Matchroom in the World Nineball Tour, and they signed to us. And as much as I would love to be friends with everyone, I would love for that. I mean, there are promoters, there are organisers that exist on the World Nineball Tour that never existed before in pool. We have sparked that and we have generated that because we want to be friends with everyone. I mean, it would be lovely to be friends with everyone, but it is not essential from our side. We can still continue. We've got 128 players. We still press forward. We still steam ahead. Yes, we would love to have everyone on board with us, but it's okay if it doesn't happen.
Last question on the WPA before I move on to the pros and the 128. Let's just say I'm on my way home tonight. Jason Shaw rings me and says, Karl, what's the latest with all this stuff? And I go, I'm not really sure. Would you be confident enough to tell somebody like Jason Shaw, don't worry about it, everything's going to be all right?
So you're asking me if the bans are going to go ahead?
Yeah, I just mean, obviously, you said you're still in talks with him, there's discussions happening. Do you think it's going to solve, everything's going to be okay for the top players?
I think that...
Yes or no?
Whatever happens, the World Nineball Tour is going ahead.
Of course.
Whatever happens. And the players it's going to be great. I mean, we just announced a $1 million tournament. New events are coming into play. The tour is growing. We are committed to that, and we have told the players we are committed to that. That's why we got 128 of the pros.
Yep.
I don't think the bans will be implemented. I think that common sense soon prevails.
128 pros have signed for the World Nineball Tour. Fantastic news. What if you've not got the signature and you're not a World Nineball Tour pro? How do they play in these open events?
So 128 World Nineball Tour pros. They're all signed up to the tour, and to the open tournaments, you're seeded and you're guaranteed your entry.
Yep.
You don't have to play in the tournament. You can decide to not play. That's also fine. So there will also be a top-up of pros, because not all 128 players are going to play in every open tournament because of the location, travel expenses and all of that. So I know that's a thing that keeps getting the needle at the moment. So then there's 128 players left to fill the field. So now the only way of entry is via qualification. So no more open link, first come, first serve basis. It is now via qualification. So the next open tournament is the UK Open, coming up in May. We already have minimum 10 qualifiers that are set up, ready, from the announcement date up until the UK Open. Now, they will be with various organisers in the UK, North, South, Midlands, where players, and also overseas if they wish to do that, where players can go along, pay their entry fee, and earn a place into the main event as an unseeded player. Now, you can play as many qualifiers as you want. You know, it's like you keep trying to qualify. It's like, you know, when you're trying to get into a raffle for your favourite trainers or queue, they can keep trying to qualify. And once you do get your qualification, you're not allowed to get into any more. You've got to stop that, and so then other people can have their chance. So very, very soon, we will be announcing a list of qualifiers for the different open events that you can sign up to then go and play in that qualifier and to try and gain entry into the event. And
the other 128 players to play the pros, is it all going to be qualifiers? That's the only way in?
It's the only way in.
Okay, so you've got to get to a qualifier. If I finish second in one of the open events, does my cash go onto a ranking even though I'm not a pro?
So essentially you can come second in the US Open and you're not a pro, can I get into the Mosconi Cup?
Yeah.
No.
So only a pro can get in the Mosconi Cup?
Only a World Nineball Tour pro can play in the invitational events.
Right, but so my runners-up prize money, does that go onto a ranking? So obviously when the 2-year ranking is over, essentially I'm moving up the rankings.
It's a very good question, because you should be able to earn your ranking points.
Yep.
And also when it comes into play of qualification, then you earn your ranking points. So you should be able to, but you cannot actually get into the invitationals. But there's also, if you're coming through from the unseeded side, there's a maximum number of opens that you can actually participate in.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is moving forward, how do you become a World Nineball Tour pro?
Very good question.
Q School at some point? Is this where we're heading?
This is where we're heading, Q School. I don't like to give away too much. And also, it's super early days as well for us. But there will be a Q School. That's why these qualifiers are really important for the open tournaments, because this is where we'll go to the major continents, where we go US, potentially Vietnam, so we cover Southeast Asia, Europe, where we set up Q School to get into the main tour. So you look at what snooker do and you look at what darts do, and we follow that model. But again, I mean, we only set up the rankings in 2022. We got 12 events a year, Matchroom events. We'll have a minimum of 40 events on our World Nineball Tour. $4 million. I mean, what more do you want?
Listen, pool players watching this, just be patient.
Please be patient.
They all know you're going to deliver. Right.
I got a question. Okay. How gutted are you that you are not playing anymore?
I wouldn't say I'm gutted, because I'll stick by my decision to quit at the time I quit, because it was a shambles.
Fair enough.
And I just think, well, it is what it is, isn't it? I can't turn back the clock, and I'm happy sat here in Eddie's office interviewing you. Right, about 3 days ago I did a poll online, we're going to finish with this, where fans asked some questions, so let's just fire through these. Pool on Netflix, some sort of documentary, or be able to watch it. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will give you a little taster.
Oh.
Well, Barry Hearn playing in the US Open.
Oh, don't. That'd be epic, right?
Yep.
What a question. Right, what can we expect from the World Nineball Championships in Saudi? Any, like the arena or anything like that?
Mataz, literally, sparklers, the lights, the tables, the arena. It's going to look absolutely top draw. And, there's so many billiard halls in Saudi Arabia, in the kingdom. Obviously, we're going to be going to Jeddah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll be going to Jeddah for the World Pool Championship. But, I'm really looking forward to seeing what different audience that we're going to get over there, because that's what's brilliant about the different events that we do. Hanoi Open, there was 3,000 fans there, and we had no idea that was going to happen. So let's go to the different territories, see what happens, and, it's a really great culture as to the different fans that we've got there in billiards.
Mosconi Cup date, have we got a date?
We've got some Mosconi Cup dates. I can not tell you right now. We've got some Mosconi Cup dates. We're going to be going on sale, hopefully, by the 1st of April. And I think everyone's going to be very, very excited for that one.
Reyes Cup dates?
Yes, they're in.
Okay.
Announcement coming very soon.
This is a great question, especially sat in this room. Who's your favourite hern?
Oh, no.
Barry already.
If I tell you the truth, I might get sacked. No. Look, I learn everything I've ever learned from Barry. You know, when I just remember when I first started, looking up to him as like a dad, or, you know, I just feel like I've learned so much from him. And you know, he's believed so much in the World Nineball Tour, so much in Nineball. And every time I sit down and talk to him, I feel like I can get up, I'm ready to go to war.
So it's Barry now, but it might be Eddie in a few years, basically.
But Eddie is definitely, I mean, a force to be reckoned with. He's done so much with boxing, and he's, you know, such a followed character, and he's also brilliant at what he does. So why not learn from the both of them? So, I mean, what more could I ask for in two bosses like Barry and Eddie Hearn?
Yeah, I agree. Somebody's asked, is Karl Boyes a better pool player or commentator? Funny.
I can't remember what you're like to play, and all I remember is that dodgy shot at the World Pool Masters that you ballsed up on.
You forgot all the good shots I played them.
And I actually think, I'm going to regret saying this because your head's going to get too big, I actually think that you're an extremely, very, very, very good pundit.
Thank you. We'll move on before it gets too big. Who's your favourite pool player to watch on tour?
Oh, Dukai.
Oh, yeah. Good answer.
He's not on tour.
He didn't. No, he didn't. Right,
No.
okay. Get to a qualifier, pal. You'll be all right. How long do you think it will be realistically before we see multiple $1 million tournaments?
Oh, gosh. I just announced one. You lot are greedy.
It's not my question.
Greedy gobblers, aren't you?
It's a fan's question.
That's a fan's question. Okay, well, I apologise.
It was Jason Shaw who asked. No, I'm only joking.
It was Jason Shaw
No,
asking,
I'm
wasn't it? Look, it's all about patience, and I think, you know, that's the key thing. It's only since 2022 we launched the rankings. When you said it yourself, 2019 was the first time we went from 3 events to 4 events. We're now sat here, 2024, with 12 events on our Matchroom Pool calendar and over 40 events on the World Nineball Tour. So it's all about faith in the tour, faith in Matchroom, and just believe in the process, because we will deliver. And I will not give up until we do deliver. So just be patient, it will come. Okay,
any plans for big brand sponsorship in tournaments?
Yeah, with our recent success of the Mosconi Cup last year, we had a great sponsor from Jewel Bits as well. And, you know, look, we're showing some real big increase on our viewership. Social media and on television, more broadcasters are taking the events. We're producing more tournaments, and we're going to new territories and more territories. With that comes bigger brands, different brands, and look, we're relentless in trying to find those and trying to bring those on board so we can bring pool to the status of the darts. So it's all part of a plan, it's all part of the process.
Could you ever see the World Nineball Tour guaranteeing the pros money like World Snooker Tour do?
Gosh. I'm not sure, to be honest. I just think that we take each day as it comes, and it's about reacting to the tour. You know, that might work for snooker. It might not work for pool. There are certain things in snooker that doesn't actually quite, you know, translate to pool. So it's all about us learning as a team as to what works for Nineball and what works for the World Nineball Tour. I don't know what's going to come. All I know is it's going to be bloody brilliant, and we're going to deliver a tour that will be on par with darts.
Right, 2 questions left. Which country would you love to take an open event to?
Philippines.
Philippines, good shout, good answer. Right, well, we'll finish on this, just a bit of fun. Who's the worst dressed player on tour? Because we know you love your fashion.
That's awful.
You can't say me because I'm not a player.
Oh, there's so many.
Oh, God.
There's so many. Worst dressed. No, I can't say because it'll come across mean.
Right, okay.
It'll
right,
be
Emily,
unfair.
we'll leave it at that. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
And just tell them to like and subscribe, please.
Like and subscribe to, what's the channel called?
Karl Boyes.
Like and subscribe to the Karl Boyes YouTube channel.